Joining me now at the desk is the former New South Wales Treasurer and Energy Minister. Now he's the Shadow Health Minister in New South Wales, Matt Kean. Thanks for your time, Matt Kean.
Thanks for Maria
Kovacic's maiden speech. Look, you've tweeted this afternoon the decision to extend the Eraring Power Station will be this is your words, a needless taxpayer spend to keep big coal going and will likely cost New South Wales its AAA credit rating. That's a bit full on, isn't it?
Well, that's not me saying it. That's the independent system operator, AEMO, saying that. In their recent update to the market, which looks at reliability, they said that the current government just needs to get on with building the energy roadmap, which the previous government left them. They don't need to extend Eraring, and they certainly don't need to spend billions of dollars in doing so.
So you would never have looked at extending Eraring?
Well, of course we'd look at it. We looked at what was required to keep the energy system going.
Isn't this the point they're trying to keep the lights on? We can't... You know, renewables is going slower than people expected with the transition.
But there's no place for politics in this, and the independent system operator, the engineers who run our energy system and who look whether there's enough capacity to ensure that the lights stay on and the system remains reliable, have said it's not needed. So if it's not needed, it's a very expensive use of taxpayers' money for an insurance policy.
Why do you think they've done it? Just the insurance policy?
Well, I think it's politics. What the independent system operator has said is that they just need to get on with building the roadmap.
Okay, what's the politics? Because they're usually pro-renewables Labor. Is it the Hunter seats or what is it?
Well, I'm not sure, but what I'm saying is that the independent system operator has very clearly said that what's needed is to get on with building the roadmap, which the previous government left the opposite for the now government. If they get on with doing that, they don't need to extend Eraring, and they certainly don't need to spend billions of taxpayer dollars in doing so. All
right, well, I've got you. The government put out a sheet on you a little while back saying you've spent $27 billion on your way out the door and put pressure on the AAA. What's your response to that?
Well, what I'd say is we managed the state through the worst health and economic crisis, and we did so in a way that kept businesses going. After our investment to keep the economy going after COVID, we had the lowest unemployment rate in the nation. I know that that's gone up under the current government. We also managed the state through the worst floods that we've ever seen up in Lismore, yet we still kept the state's AAA credit rating.
There were some election gimmies there, though, weren't there?
The marker for this government is will they keep the state's AAA credit rating? We were able to do it because of our sound financial management. The test for Labor is whether they will keep the state's AAA credit rating and return the budget to surplus like we were going to do.
Did your spending put pressure on inflation?
Our spending was investing in things that were going to grow the overall size of the economy. And the investment houses, the ones that rate our debt, they said that our spending was in things that were going to grow the overall size of the economy, whereas the current Labor government...
And was occasionally inflationary.
The current Labor government are making inflationary calls by giving huge pay rises that are going to put upward pressure on inflation and cost the taxpayers billions of dollars.
All right, on The Voice, you're a supporter. Polls look pretty grim, don't they?
Well, I'm a supporter because I want to see us build a stronger nation for everyone. And I'm concerned about the number of Indigenous Australians that have an unemployment rate 10% above the rest of us. I'm concerned that the life expectancy for Indigenous Australians is equivalent to those living in Libya and El Salvador. I'm concerned that 1 in 5 Indigenous Australians lives in houses without sanitation. So I think we can do better.
Why are so many Australians off it?
Well, I think that we need to get out there and campaign and explain that this is an advisory body. It has no impact other than providing advice to the Parliament. It doesn't make laws. It doesn't allocate funds. It's just Indigenous communities advising the government on policies that affect them. And I think we can do better.
Do you concede it's pretty tough from here?
Well, I think, of course, convincing any of the Australian public for change is hard, but we don't need to shy away from that. We need to get out there and explain it to the community, and that's certainly what I'm doing in my community.
What do you make of Peter Dutton's idea for a second referendum?
I want Peter Dutton to be the Prime Minister of this country. I'm glad that Peter Dutton supports recognising Indigenous Australians in the Constitution. I think we can go a bit further and give them a voice to Parliament, but I certainly am supporting Peter Dutton.
And the story today I wanted to ask you about, just finally, how do you feel about Warren Mundine as a Senate Liberal candidate?
Warren's a great man. He's a personal friend of mine. I think he'd make a great contribution to the Liberal Party.
Matt Kean, thanks so much for your time this afternoon.
Thanks, Andrew.